Three bombshells are about to explode in Chicago. A rookie tight end is going viral for something totally unrelated to football, but might just showcase the exact personality the Bears need. Meanwhile, our backup quarterback is making national rankings, and you won't believe where he's placed. And if that wasn't enough, a completely unknown tackle from Canada is about to protect the blind side of our franchise's future. But are the Bears making the right decisions? Have we finally found the missing pieces? Most importantly, does this mean the Bears are building something special for 2025? Stick around until the end, because these three stories will completely change your perspective on this season. If you're true Bears fans, hit that like and subscribe now. But before we kick things off, let me tell you something. I've analyzed over 1,000 hours of Bears film, been following this franchise for over 20 years, and I can assure you what you're about to hear today might completely define the course of our 2025 season. So grab a beer, sit back, because we're diving deep into the news that's taking Chicago by storm. Folks, when I saw Colston Loveland singing Let Me Love You by Justin Bieber a cappella in front of the entire team, I said, this is exactly what Chicago needed. You know how I am. Always talking about locker room chemistry, about personality, about having players who aren't afraid to put themselves out there. And this kid did just that. But let me explain the whole story behind this performance. You know, every year in the NFL, rookies go through a tradition that can be both humiliating and revealing. It's a rite of passage where veterans test not just the rookie's talent, but especially their personality, their ability to handle pressure, and most importantly, if they have what it takes to be part of the family. I'll tell you, since I saw that performance, I realized Loveland is not just a talented tight end, he's a natural leader. Can you believe the veterans approved it on the first try? That doesn't happen often, folks. In fact, it's quite rare. Usually, veterans make the rookies repeat their performances 2, 3, sometimes even 4 times, just to test their mental resilience and see if they'll crumble under pressure. Kevin Byard, who's been in the league for 10 years and has seen hundreds of rookie performances, said it was one of the best music choices he's ever seen. And look, Byard isn't known for giving easy compliments. The guy's a tough safety, coming from the Tennessee Titans, where the culture is about hard work and zero tolerance for nonsense. If he's impressed, it really was something special. And Cole Kmet, the guy said it might be the best rookie performance of the entire preseason. Kmet, our veteran tight end, knows exactly what he's talking about. He went through the same tradition a few years ago and understands the pressure the rookies face. The fact he's making this comparison shows Loveland really stood out in an exceptional way. But here's what really impresses me. While Caleb Williams and the offense are still trying to find their rhythm in practice, struggling with timing and chemistry, Loveland is already showing he has the confidence and personality to lead. Do you realize what that means? Let me explain something about sports psychology. When a rookie can earn the respect of the veterans right from the start, it creates a completely different dynamic in the locker room. The veterans start looking at him not just as another rookie who has to learn, but as someone who can contribute immediately, both on and off the field. I ask you, how many rookie tight ends have the courage to put themselves out there like that? How many would choose a Justin Bieber song, which might be seen as soft by NFL standards, and still deliver with such conviction that they impress tough veterans? I believe this shows exactly what kind of player he is. Someone who's not afraid of pressure. Someone who embraces big moments. Someone who doesn't try to be something he's not. And you know what else? The song choice was strategic. Let Me Love You isn't just a popular song. It's one that allows you to showcase vocal range with moments to shine and that everyone knows. Loveland showed emotional intelligence by choosing something he knew he could execute perfectly without instrumental backup. That's Da Bears, man. From the monsters of the Midway era, through legends like Mike Ditka, Walter Payton, Dick Butkus, Chicago has always had players with strong personalities, players who weren't afraid to stand out, who embraced the pressure and the responsibility of representing this city. Loveland is showing he understands the culture of this franchise. He understands that in Chicago, you can't just be another one. You need to have something special, something that sets you apart. And that performance showed exactly that. Kevin Byard mentioned Loveland, added a special touch, gave us a little dance, a hop. It's not just about singing well, it's about entertainment, commanding an environment, about leading. When he steps onto the field at Soldier Field against Buffalo this Sunday, you'll see that confidence translates into important plays. Because a guy who has the courage to sing Justin Bieber a cappella for 53 professional players is the same guy who's going to have the courage to run a route across the middle when the linebacker comes flying in. And look, Ben Johnson, our new offensive coordinator, is seeing all of this. Johnson came from the Detroit Lions with a reputation for creating creative plays for tight ends. He knows how to use the position innovatively. Having a tight end who not only has the physical talent, but also the personality to execute in pressure moments is exactly what Johnson needs to implement his offensive system. The truth is, this performance might have been the moment that cemented Loveland's place on this team. Not just as a rookie who's going to learn slowly, but as someone who can contribute immediately and become a central piece of our offense. Now let's talk about Tyson Campbell. And I already know some of you might be divided over this ranking by the Pro Football Sports Network. They placed our backup quarterback at the 30th position among all NFL backup QBs, one spot ahead of Mitchell Trubisky. And you know what I say about that? I say this ranking is a complete injustice. But before explaining why this ranking is wrong, let me tell you the full story of Tyson Campbell, because it's one of the most inspiring stories in modern football. This guy came from Shepherd University, a Division II school most people have never heard of. We're talking about a college in Shepherdstown, West Virginia, with less than 4,000 students. To give you an idea of the scale of this story, Shepherd University competes in the Mountain East Conference. Games are broadcast to a few hundred people. The stadium holds about 4,500 people, and most players never dream of playing professionally. Campbell not only dreamed, but turned that dream into reality. Let's get to the facts. Campbell came from Shepherd College as an undrafted free agent and earned a roster spot. That's already an extraordinary achievement. Do you know how many undrafted free agents manage not only to enter an NFL roster, but maintain it for multiple seasons? The percentage is tiny. Last week against Miami, he completed 68.4% of passes for 103 yards with a touchdown. Sure, there was an interception, but folks, let's put this in perspective. The guy's playing with players still fighting for spots on the team. The offensive line was with backups. The receivers were mostly rookies and players competing for places, and he still maintained almost 70% completion. And the passer rating of 77.3 for a backup quarterback playing under preseason conditions, that's more than respectable. How many starting QBs in the league have had regular season games with a passer rating lower than that? I ask you, how many backup quarterbacks in the 30th spot have started 4 regular season games and shown they can command an NFL offense? I believe Campbell deserved to be in the top 20. Easy. PFSN's evaluation says he wasn't convincing. Enough to be a real threat. But I completely disagree. Let me explain what happened when Campbell took over as starter 2 years ago. Justin Fields got injured, and suddenly this unknown guy from West Virginia was leading the Chicago Bears NFL offense. The pressure was immense. Chicago is a city that doesn't forgive quarterbacks' mistakes. You know this better than anyone. And what did Campbell do? In the 4 games as a starter, he showed exactly what PFSN said he didn't show. Grit. He played with courage, made smart decisions, and more importantly, he won games. We're not talking about a guy who just didn't lose games. We're talking about someone who actively contributed to victories. PFSN's analysis mentions he wasn't picked up by any other team, as if that's a weakness. But I see it completely differently. The fact he stayed in Chicago for consecutive seasons as QB2 shows the organization believes in him. Ryan Poles, our general manager, known for making calculated and smart decisions, kept Campbell on the roster. Matt Eberflus, who's extremely demanding with his quarterbacks, trusts him. Look, when Justin Fields got injured 2 years ago, who held the fort? Campbell. And now, with Case Keenum sidelined with a leg injury, who's going to be ready to support? Caleb Williams-Campbell. This city of Chicago has always respected players who work hard and earn their spot through pure merit. This guy represents exactly that. And there's another aspect most people overlook: mental preparation. Campbell not only plays well when called upon, he stays prepared. How many backup QBs in the league do you think study film with the same intensity as a starter? How many stay in top physical and mental shape as if they're going to play next Sunday? Bagent consistently does that. The truth is that having Bagent as QB2 gives us a security many teams don't have. While other teams worry about their backup quarterbacks, we know we have someone who's already proven he can win games in the NFL. Teams like Green Bay, who fully depend on Aaron Rodgers, or Buffalo, who live and die with Josh Allen, don't have that peace of mind. And now, with Caleb Williams as our franchise's future, having Bagent there to mentor, to show how to behave as a professional, is priceless. Williams can learn a lot from Bagent's journey, his work ethic, his humility, and determination. Placing Bagent in a 30th position completely ignores the context, ignores the history, ignores the results. It's the kind of ranking that only looks at names and pedigree but disregards performance and reliability. And that's exactly the kind of underestimation that motivates players like Bagent to keep proving them wrong. And here comes the bombshell nobody was expecting. Theo Benedict. Folks, I can't believe we're seriously talking about the possibility of this Canadian tackle protecting Caleb Williams' blindside in Week 1. This is undoubtedly the most surprising story of the entire Bears preseason. You remember last year's Hard Knocks when he showed up in that Eagle swimsuit. Everyone laughed, thought it was funny, the typical Hard Knocks thing for creating entertaining moments. But I said at the time, watch this kid. There was something about the way he presented himself, the confidence he showed, that caught my attention. Let me tell you the full story of this guy, because it's one of the most improbable you'll ever hear. Theo Benedict came from the University of British Columbia in Canada. We're talking about a completely different university system, where football doesn't have anywhere near the same level of exposure or development as in the United States. UBC competes in the Canada West Conference, part of Canadian Youth Sports. To give you an idea of the level, top Canadian players usually come to American universities if they want any shot at the NFL. The fact Benedict developed while remaining in the Canadian system is extraordinary. And now Brian Baldinger from NFL Network did an analysis of his performance against Miami and was impressed. Baldinger, folks, the guy who analyzes film better than anyone in the league. When Baldinger does a breakdown of a player, it's because he saw something really special. He doesn't waste time analyzing mediocre players. Baldinger's analysis shows solid technique, impressive footwork, and a protection ability that can give Caleb Williams the time he needs in the pocket. But let me explain what that means technically, because it's important you understand exactly what we're saying. In modern football, the left tackle is possibly the second most important position on a team after the quarterback. It's the guy responsible for protecting the QB's blind side, the side he can't see when preparing to pass. A left tackle's mistake can result in a fumble, a serious quarterback injury, or at the very least a sack that kills an offensive drive. For a right-handed quarterback like Caleb Williams, the left tackle is absolutely crucial. Williams needs to be 100% confident his back is protected so he can focus on reading the defense and finding open receivers. If he's constantly worried about pressure from the blind side, it completely affects his performance. I'll tell you, Benedict passed Ozzy Trapilo, who was our second-round pick, in the competition for the position. That's no coincidence. Trapilo came from Pittsburgh, a school known for developing NFL linemen. He was drafted specifically to compete for the left tackle position. The fact an undrafted guy nobody knew passed a second-round draft pick is absolutely extraordinary. Matt Eberflus and Ben Johnson saw something special in this player. And look, these are coaches who watch hundreds of hours of film, who observe every technical detail, every tendency, every reaction under pressure. They wouldn't make such a decision lightly. Ben Johnson specifically comes from Detroit, where he worked with one of the best offensive lines in the NFL. He knows exactly what to look for in a left tackle, knows how to evaluate technique, athleticism, and more importantly, mentality. If Johnson is confident in Benedict, it's because he's seen something indicating the kid can execute at the NFL level. A guy nobody wanted in the draft, who came from the University of British Columbia, is about to be our starting left tackle. Do you realize the magnitude of this? I ask you, when was the last time Chicago discovered a hidden gem like this? Since Kyle Long retired due to injuries, we've been looking for stability on the offensive line. We've tried with expensive veterans, with draft picks, with trades, and maybe the answer was right in front of us all along, in the form of an unknown Canadian nobody gave a chance. The NFL's history is full of improbable discoveries on the offensive line. Jason Peters was a tight end who turned into one of the best left tackles in history. Tyron Smith was considered a project when drafted and became an all-pro. Antonio Brown started as a small wide receiver and became a star. But Benedict's story is even more improbable. If Benedict can maintain this level against Buffalo, and if he really becomes our starting left tackle in the season opener, we'll be watching one of the most incredible stories in recent NFL history. A guy who was probably working a regular job in Canada a few years ago might be protecting Chicago Bears franchise's future. And there's another important aspect: mentality. Benedict didn't arrive with high expectations, without media pressure, without the weight of being an expensive draft pick. He arrived hungry, eager to prove his worth. That kind of mentality sometimes produces the best results because the player is constantly fighting to maintain his position. The performance against Miami that impressed Baldinger showed not only technical skill, but composure under pressure. Benedict didn't seem intimidated by the environment, didn't commit penalties out of nervousness, kept his solid technique even when facing experienced pass rushers. That's mental fortitude, and it's exactly what you want in a left tackle. So there you have it, the three stories shaking up Chicago right now. Tight end winning over the locker room with his personality and showing natural leadership. A backup quarterback deserving much more national recognition and giving us security. Few teams have. And a Canadian tackle who might be our biggest find of the season, solving a problem haunting us for years. But let me dive deeper into what these three stories mean for the future of the Chicago Bears. What we're seeing here aren't just three individual players doing interesting things. We're witnessing a cultural shift in the organization, a new way to identify and develop talent. Loveland's story shows this new administration values not only physical talent, but personality and leadership. The confidence he showed in that performance is precisely the mindset winners have. In Chicago, where fan and media pressure is intense, having players who embrace the spotlight rather than shy away from it is crucial. Bagan's situation reveals something about the competence of our front office. While other teams spend millions on veteran backup quarterbacks or gamble on expensive draft picks that might not work, we developed an undrafted free agent who became one of the league's best backup options. That's organizational intelligence, and Benedict represents perhaps the most significant discovery. If he really establishes himself as our left tackle, we're talking about a savings of tens of millions that could have been spent in free agency or trades. More importantly, we're talking about stability in a crucial position for years. These three stories together suggest something special is happening at Hallas Hall. A combination of good talent evaluation, smart player development, and a culture that allows unlikely players to flourish. I want to hear from you. Which of these stories impressed you the most? Do you believe Loveland will become a key part of Ben Johnson's offense? Did Tyson Baggan truly deserve to be ranked much higher among the league's backup QBs? And what do you think about the real possibility of Benedict being our starting left tackle protecting Caleb Williams? Leave your comments below because I read them all and respond whenever I can. And if you want to stay updated with all the Bears news, subscribe to the channel and hit the bell. We're a family here, folks. A family that bleeds navy blue and orange, that believes Chicago deserves a championship team, and that is following every step of this journey towards success. Don't miss the upcoming videos because I guarantee we'll have more explosive news about our Bears. With the game against Buffalo approaching, with the regular season getting closer, and with these stories unfolding, this 2025 season promises to be absolutely special. You can't miss this journey that might change everything for this franchise. Bear down, Chicago Bears. And remember, in Chicago, we don't just anticipate greatness, we demand it. And maybe, just maybe, these three players are exactly the pieces we were looking for to get back to the top of the NFL.